Have you ever noticed how sometimes the more we want to change, the more everything around us seems to fall apart? It feels like the universe, instead of opening doors, starts locking them all.
And in that moment, you ask yourself, am I doing something wrong? Maybe this dream isn't for me, but what if it's exactly the opposite? What if, in reality, this silent chaos is a sign that change is near? What if the universe, or however you prefer to name that invisible force that governs life, is testing you not to punish, but to see if you're truly ready? Carl Jung, one of the most influential psychologists of the 20th century, believed that our external reality is often a reflection of what's going on inside us. He didn't see obstacles as mere coincidences or random punishments, but as symbols, living manifestations of the unconscious trying to push us toward our true path, as if the soul itself was shaking the structures that no longer support who we're becoming. Think about it. How many times have you experienced a kind of collapse before a new beginning? A crisis that seemed meaningless, and that later, looking back, made perfect sense. Today, we're going to talk about that. About how the universe, through life, people, and even silence, tests us before delivering a new reality. It's not punishment, it's preparation. But before anything else, I have a sincere question for you. Are you truly ready to change? Because that answer determines what comes next. Every major change begins with a confrontation. Not with the outside world, but with everything you've spent your life trying to hide, fears, traumas, denied desires. Parts of yourself you were taught to call wrong, but that have always followed you. Carl Jung called this the shadow, the hidden side of our psyche that doesn't disappear when ignored, it simply hides deeper. And the more we deny it, the more it acts behind the scenes, sabotaging decisions, distorting relationships, repeating painful cycles. The universe's test is often a mirror reflecting our refusal to face that forgotten part. Here's the key. The universe doesn't test you with what's easy. It pokes exactly at your most unresolved wound. It places mirrors in your relationships, your failures, your frustrations, until you realize you're not being punished. You're being invited to truly know yourself. And this is where many give up. When the pain feels bigger than the promise of change. But Jung said, "He who looks outside dreams. He who looks inside awakens." Because it's in the depth of the shadow that your true self hides. Not the one you show the world, but the one pulsing in silence. Think about all the times life backed you into a corner. Maybe what it wanted wasn't to make you suffer, but to force you to stop running from yourself. When you begin to hear that internal call, no matter how uncomfortable it is, something changes, not from the outside in, but from the inside out. And that's when the first signs of transformation begin to appear. Are you ready to face your shadow? Because it's the gateway to your new reality. Imagine a building about to be demolished. Everything looks like a disaster. Cracks, dust, collapsing structures. But those watching from the outside don't realize there's a plan. The destruction is happening with surgical precision. It's chaos with purpose, collapse as strategy. Now think about your life. Maybe right now you're experiencing loss, endings, emotional exhaustion. But what if all of this is part of a reconstruction? What if the universe is tearing down what no longer serves you because you didn't have the courage to do it yourself? That's what we call a controlled collapse. A mechanism life activates when your soul is asking for something greater, but your mind and habits remain attached to the old. Here lies one of the biggest confusions we face. We think everything is going wrong when in truth, everything is aligning to go right. This kind of test is where many people retreat. They try to cling to what's crumbling. They fight to save relationships, jobs, or identities that no longer support their journey. But there comes a point of no return, a moment when, if you keep trying to save what needs to die, you end up sinking with it. American philosopher Martha Beck describes this moment as the space between symbolic death and rebirth. She says there are phases in life when there's nothing left to do but let it all burn. Let go of what's leaving, hold the empty space, resist the urge to rush into anything new, because only in that void can the new be born. The universe won't deliver your next chapter until you prove you're willing to release the previous one. So here's the direct question: what are you still holding on to that has already stopped being yours? Because as long as you lack the courage to let go, the collapse will continue. There are moments when life's silence becomes deafening. No answers arrive, no solutions appear, and you find yourself stuck within yourself. That's when the universe stops using the outside world to test you and begins to test you from within. Have you felt this? That sensation that everything has stopped. Nothing seems to evolve. Nothing moves. As if time has frozen and life decided to take a break right when you needed it most. This trial is one of the subtlest and most dangerous, because unlike visible storms, it comes in the form of emptiness, existential fatigue, a kind of exhaustion that has no name or obvious cause. Carl Jung believed this type of inner silence was the prelude to the deepest transformation. When everything seems stagnant, something inside is being reconfigured, but this process demands something few are willing to offer: patience. And patience here is not passive waiting. It's an active form of surrender. It's continuing to walk even without seeing the path. It's trusting when there's no reason around you to justify the trust. American writer Clarissa Pinkola Estes talks about this when she says, "Sometimes the soul must go all the way down to the bottom of the well to find what the surface would never give." That bottom is symbolic. It's the place where you meet your bare essence, where all distractions are stripped away and all that's left is you with yourself. This is where the real test happens. Do you still believe in yourself when no one else does? Do you keep going when there are no cheers, no guarantees, no visible rewards? This is the soil where miracles are born, but it only blooms for those who resist the temptation to run, for those who stay. So if everything is silent right now, if nothing moves, maybe life is asking, can you hold your own hand in the dark? Because only those who cross this kind of silent night see the sun with new eyes. Sometimes the hardest tests don't come from life itself, but from the people around us. A comment that hurts, a look that belittles, a criticism that feels more like a dagger than advice. And the worst part, it comes from someone you trust. That's when many people ask, why is this coming from them? Why now? The answer lies in what Carl Jung called projection. According to him, what we don't accept in ourselves, we project onto others. And the opposite is also true. What others can't accept in themselves, they project onto you. That's why when you begin to grow, change, shine, don't expect everyone to celebrate. Some people will feel threatened because your growth highlights their stagnation. Your courage screams in the face of their avoidance. It's as if you become a walking mirror, exposing what many have spent a lifetime hiding, and nobody likes to be reminded of their own shadows. In this sense, emotional tests from those closest to you are not about you, they're about them. But how you react, that's all about you. Will you stop your progress, To comfort those who feel intimidated? Or will you keep going, even if you're misunderstood? Jung said, individuation, process of becoming who you are, demands the courage to disappoint others' expectations. To be misunderstood, because someone going through deep transformation can't keep living to fit into other people's worlds. So, when someone tries to hurt you, look beyond the pain. Ask yourself, what is it about this new version of me that's making them uncomfortable? And more importantly, why does it still affect me so much? Maybe that's the test. Maybe the universe is asking, are you willing to lose approval? To gain freedom? Because not everyone will applaud your light. But your light wasn't made to please. It was made to illuminate. There's a quiet, yet deafening moment when you simply no longer recognize yourself. What you used to love no longer makes sense. The people around you seem to speak a language you no longer understand. And worst of all, what once felt comfortable now suffocates you. It's like being lost inside your own skin, an emotional labyrinth where every wall reflects an old version of who you used to be, but none represent who you're becoming. And that's terrifying, because the identity you cultivated for so long begins to crumble without a new one ready to take its place. Carl Jung described this phenomenon as a symbolic death. To be reborn, something within us must die, not the body, the persona, the mask, that version crafted to please, to fit in, to survive. When it begins to fall apart, the ego panics. It clings to the familiar. But the old no longer provides shelter. This is the test of transition. It's no longer the universe confronting you. It's you facing yourself. Montaigne, a 16th century philosopher, once wrote, "The greatest thing in the world is to know how to be oneself." But who can truly achieve that without first enduring the discomfort of not knowing who they are anymore? This stage of confusion isn't weakness. It's transformation. And like any true transition, it demands courage, not to rush, but to stay, to accept the lack of answers, to look inward and admit, I don't know who I am right now, but I'm willing to find out. And maybe that's the most honest question you can ask yourself. If I'm no longer who I was, who am I becoming? Because only those who allow themselves to get lost can truly be found. We live in a world that teaches us to respond quickly, to justify everything, to constantly explain ourselves, as if silence were guilt, as if not reacting were weakness. But what if it's exactly the opposite? Carl Jung said true strength isn't about reacting to the world, it's about consciously choosing when and how to respond. He understood that every impulsive reaction is a surrender of power. When you explode, justify, rush to please, you're not affirming yourself, you're giving yourself away. Being able to pause, breathe, and choose silence is an act of sovereignty. How many times have you fallen into the trap of reacting automatically? That one message that provoked you, and you replied on impulse. The criticism that hit you, and you felt the need to explain yourself. The judgment that paralyzed you because you believed you had to prove something. But what if you had simply stayed silent? Writer Brianna Wiest says emotional maturity is measured by your ability to stay calm, even when others try to trigger your chaos. This kind of self-control isn't indifference and it's presence. It's knowing that you don't have to be loud to be at peace with yourself. Sometimes the universe tests exactly that, your ability to remain centered in the noise, your capacity to hold your own energy without falling into other people's emotional games. So if you feel like everything around you is pushing you to react, maybe this is the test. Do you still need to prove who you are? Or have you finally learned to just be? Because the silent choice isn't a mission, it's mastery. And the one who masters themselves is already halfway to victory. Suddenly, a random conversation touches exactly on what's been troubling you. A book falls open to the perfect page. An unlikely encounter shifts the course of your day or your life. Coincidence? Maybe. But Carl Jung believed it was more than that. Synchronicity. For Jung, synchronicity is when two events, seemingly unrelated by cause, are meaningfully connected. It's like the universe is answering you, but in a different language, one that only the attentive can hear. These signs aren't magical in the fantasy sense. They are symbolic responses that mirror the state of your soul. When you begin to change from within, the outer world begins to respond, like an echo, like a mirror. How many times have you felt something was meant to be? That something happened at the exact moment with the right person when you needed it most, even without asking. This type of alignment happens when you shift from resistance to presence. Centuries before Jung, philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer said a person's destiny can be read like a work of art. Seen up close, it's chaotic, but from afar, everything connects. Synchronicity is this invisible thread between your inner life and the outer events. But be careful. Synchronicity doesn't show up when you're trying to control. It appears when you surrender, when you stop begging and start listening, when you stop forcing and begin to flow. So if something strange, symbolic, or oddly timed happens in the coming days, don't ignore it. Maybe the universe is trying to speak with you. Maybe for the first time it's responding not to what you've asked for, but to what you've finally become ready to receive. There comes a moment when life stops giving subtle signs. It puts everything in front of you blatantly. The repetitions become obvious, the cycles unbearable, the invitations to change stop being polite suggestions and become demands. This is the final test. And here there's no manual, no guarantees, no applause. Just you, the choice, and the abyss of the unknown. Silently, the universe asks, are you willing to act in alignment with what you say you want, or will you keep clinging to the same responses that brought you here? Change isn't comfortable. It means losing reference points, unlearning habits, dying symbolically so that something more real can be born. And at this stage, it's no longer about theory, it's about action, about embodiment. It's when you stop merely talking about self-love and start setting boundaries. When you stop studying courage and finally make the decision that terrifies you. When you realize fear won't go away, and even so, you walk forward with it. At this point, many turn back because real change demands a price, and that price is often the old version of you. Carl Jung believed individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are, requires sacrifice. It demands giving up the role you played to be accepted. It means disappointing people, restarting from zero, standing alone. But in exchange, you gain something non-negotiable: authenticity, clarity, coherence between what you feel, think, and do. So if you feel you're standing at the edge of a choice that could change everything, know this. It's not a coincidence. It's the final test, and it only asks one question. Will you keep explaining your pain, or finally choose your healing? If you've made it this far, maybe you've realized the universe doesn't punish. It reveals. It doesn't block. It redirects. Every silence, every crisis, every uncomfortable repetition has a hidden purpose: to wake you up, And no, awakening is not a one-time magical moment. It's a process, a journey made of small awakenings, of falls that teach more than victories, of silences that say more than 1,000 words. This is how the universe tests you, by putting you face to face with who you are to see if you're ready to become who you were meant to be. Carl Jung believed that the soul's journey is the most important of all, that we become whole when we integrate light and shadow, courage and fear, silence and action, when we stop running from ourselves and start walking with ourselves. And maybe that's the greatest transformation of all, realizing that everything you were searching for outside was already inside. It was just waiting for you to become capable of holding it. So now, take a deep breath, turn your gaze inward and ask yourself, what is the next step my soul is asking me to take? Maybe you don't have all the answers right now, and that's okay. But if this video touched you, stirred something in you, or helped you reflect, then share it with someone who might be going through their own transformation. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and continue this journey with us, because the next step might be in the next piece of content, and the transformation has already begun. Until then, take care and trust the process.